You're busy and have a million things to do. So why should you squeeze in spending more time on your presentations? Well, one reason is because being an effective presenter is good for your career. Whether you're in academia, research, evaluation, or you've taken a non-academic or alt-ac path, becoming an effective presenter is a smart career choice. The most obvious way it's good for your career is it can help you actually get a job. Think about it. When you're there delivering your job talk or chalk talk or teaching demo, you need to communicate clearly and you need to demonstrate that you know how to share your work in effective and engaging ways. In other words, you need to make a good impression. You need your job talk to be engaging and effective if you want to increase your chances of getting that job offer. If you come to your job talk or teaching demo with standard slides, so walls of text, bad images, bullet points, data tables, slide templates, they're not going to be impressed, and that is not going to help you get the job. And I have a 40-minute training video here on my channel, more about job talks and teaching demos. So if you are interested, check out that video when you're done with this video. But it's not just job talks. Being an effective presenter helps you even if you're not in academia. So for example, Cole Nussbaumer-Knaflic, who is one of my favorites, I love the way she teaches data visualization. Well, she's coming from the business world, the tech world. She worked for Google. And in her book, she said, a recruiter told me that today, having proficiency in Microsoft Office on a resume isn't enough. Being able to tell stories with data is one area that will give you an edge and position you for success in nearly every role. Emphasis on nearly any role, whether you're in academia or science communication, or you're working for a government agency or nonprofit or industry, being able to communicate effectively is a skill that will help you land a job. Recruiters want to see this skill in new hires. Okay, so it can help you get a job. The next few reasons, though, are all about opportunities for your career. And on Twitter, Career Conversation said this really well. I love this tweet. They said, being unprepared for a presentation is leaving opportunities on the table. Yikes. You will never know who will watch you and consider hiring you or collaborating with you. So make sure you come in prepared as hell. I mean, I just love this tweet and agree with it 100%. Not only because it mentions being prepared, which is really important, and I have a whole video about that, so the link to that is below, but it's also perfect for this video because it captures that hard to define reason that effective presenting is so good for your career. It's this idea of potential opportunities for your career. In other words, when you're an effective and engaging presenter, networking is easier. Yay! And networks are so valuable for a lot of reasons, and just one of them is finding potential collaborators, people you might actually enjoy working with who maybe aren't at your organization or university. So how does that work? Why is being an effective presenter good for networking? How does it make it easier? Okay, let's think about this. Let's say you're at a conference presentation. You're giving a conference presentation. If your presentation basically looks like this, it's just a death by PowerPoint, wall of text, no data visualization, and maybe you haven't prepared or scripted or practiced, well, your audience is not going to be very impressed. In fact, they'll be bored or confused, or, if you're just reading your wall of text slide to them, they're going to feel like you're wasting their time. And you never want people to feel like you're wasting their time. And then when you're done, then at best, you might just hear crickets or, maybe a very quiet, polite applause. And then people just kind of slowly trickle out and don't really say anything to you. And you're just kind of standing there alone with people not coming up to you and engaging with you and saying that they appreciated your presentation or your work. And that sucks. After all that work to finish like that, when that's happened to me, I didn't feel very good about it. But the good news is that we can tell a different story, one where you present like an absolute boss. Okay, people are engaged. They're paying attention to you. They're enjoying your presentation and fascinated by your data and your great data visualizations. They're not bored. They're engaged. Okay. And instead of people just trickling away and not saying anything, now you have people who want to come up to you, who want to talk to you. Hopefully it's about your work and how much they enjoyed, learning about what you're doing. But, at worst, it's people saying they loved your presentation. I mean, that's the first step to networking. That's why it makes networking easier. You've given them something to talk to you about, something that they're excited to talk to you about. Let's keep going with this. So again, imagine you're done with your presentation, you're still at the conference, you're in the lobby, and someone comes up and says, "Hey, your presentation totally rocked." And they're like, "Yeah, seriously, you didn't just cram a wall of text and a bunch of data tables in my face. You actually had an accessible and engaging presentation that I understood and enjoyed." And then you'll be thrilled because that's validation that all your hard work actually paid off and wasn't a total waste of your time. And then maybe they'll even be like, "Yeah, no, we have similar interests and perspectives. You clearly seem like a cool person. Maybe we should collaborate." And you'll be like, "Totes my goats, let's set up a Zoom call," right? And then now you've got new friends, you've got new collaborators, and you can, do things like start forming your relationships and talk about how amazing the coffee is, or, the weather, or maybe that creepy billboard that you can see in every single window. Seriously, like, what is that? Anyway, look, this is not just some fantasy, unrealistic outcome that I'm making up, okay? This actually started happening to me once I started creating better presentations. For example, I actually got an invite to write a book chapter because of a connection I made when I was a member of a panel. And this person was impressed not just with the research, but with the way it was communicated. So they remembered me, and years later, it turned into a book chapter. So that's just one example. And people who take my online course tell me, all the time that they'll be at a conference presentation, they'll present, and people will come up to them just to say, "Hey, I loved your presentation." Again, that's step one, getting people to talk to you. And it's done just because you had a great presentation and did not present to them in this type of way. I mean, think about it. If most people are presenting in this way and you aren't, you actually have engaging presentations, you're going to stand out in a good way. And when you communicate in more creative or interesting ways that people haven't really seen before, they're going to want to talk to you. And seriously, networking is so important. Just in case you didn't know, or you're not really focusing on your network, you totally should be. And the brilliant Dr. Huntley actually wrote a guest blog for my website about networking. So I'll post the link below. Make sure you check that out. And she has a podcast and actually interviewed me for her podcast. So if you want to hear me talk a little more about how being an effective presenter is good for your career, check out that podcast and make sure you subscribe to her podcast. It's pretty great. Hey, looks like you're still here with me, which is super awesome. Give this video a like, make sure to subscribe, and stay awesome. Okay, that was cheesy. I know. Okay. All right. The other way effective presenting is good for your career is it can help you improve your student evals. Oh my goodness. Now, there are a lot of problems with teaching evaluations. Don't get me wrong. Researchers have documented that they are super biased, that they don't really reflect the quality of teaching. So I look forward to the day when they're not used as part of, your career, basically. But at the same time, I wouldn't really be any help to you if I was like, teaching evaluations are super biased and not a great way to measure quality of teaching. So I'm just going to ignore it. I'm just going to pretend like they don't exist. That would not be helpful to you, now would it? Okay? So right now, teaching evaluations do matter, and they matter in a lot of places. So my perspective is this. Look, if you can present in effective and engaging ways in your classes, in your lectures, then you'll be a better educator. You'll be a better professor. And then a happy byproduct of that is you might find that students mention that in their teaching evaluations. And that's how it can be helpful for your career. But really, my focus is not just get you good teaching evaluations. My focus is teach better first, and then a byproduct is better evaluations. You might just be thinking I'm making this up and that I have absolutely no proof, but I just want to share a few quotes with you from course members. So here's one. For the first time, my teaching evaluations explicitly mention the slides and handouts, and the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. Are your teaching evaluations overwhelmingly positive, especially in terms of talking about your slides? Well, if not, they totally could be. Here's another quote. So while preparing their review packet, this professor had positive teaching evaluations to include and said, I plan to frame my completion of BOSS as professional development activity and show the change in my slides as evidence of my growth as an educator. The positive feedback in my student evaluations of teaching will help with that. And BOSS is Blast Off to Stellar Slides. That's my signature course. And again, this is about helping you teach better and making a better connection with your students. So for example, one member even said, I had several students approach and ask, what classes do you teach next semester? And will you have the same types of slides? And just in case it's not clear, this was said in a very positive way. Like they wanted to take her class again because she's obviously awesome and a great educator. And, they specifically mentioned that they loved her lecture slides. I mean, can you imagine your students being excited to take another class with you and being excited to look at your lecture slides again, right? That is the power of being an effective presenter and how it can help you through better teaching evaluations. I mean, imagine what can happen with your career if you gained a reputation in your department for that, right? Like people would be talking in a good way. Okay. Another way effective presenting is good for your career is it helps make you invaluable to your team. So again, maybe you're not in academia, maybe you don't teach, maybe you're in a non-academic position like a research center, government agency, industry. There is no question that being able to communicate clearly and effectively with your slides can make you invaluable. That's kind of what was hinted at here. Being able to tell stories with data and communicating effectively gives you an edge and sets you up for success. And she's not the only one saying this. I just finished Nancy Duarte's new book, Data Story, someone else I really respect. And she said, those who develop this skill, meaning, effective communication, are likely to become highly respected go-to advisors, chosen to participate in higher profile forms of decision-making. I mean, wow, that is one way to make yourself really valuable wherever you're working. She also said, if you learn how to communicate data clearly and persuasively, you will stand out from others. And she's right. Here's the thing. I'm telling people this all the time. There are a lot of smart people out there. You're smart, other people are smart, and the ones who stand out, the ones who have an edge and become invaluable in their organization, well, those are the people who can communicate effectively while also being smart. So you can't just be smart, you have to be smart and you have to be able to communicate information well. You have to be an effective presenter. Quick recap here. Being an effective presenter can help your career by increasing the likelihood that you get a job, you grow your network, you get better student evaluations, and you become invaluable in your organization. Look, life is really hard and full of uncertainty. So I am not saying that a good slide deck is the only thing you need for these and it will guarantee that these things happen. I'm definitely not saying that. It's more complex than that, and I totally know that. What I'm saying is, nothing is nothing is a guarantee, and there's a lot of things you cannot control, but you have full control over how well you communicate information and how well you communicate data. You have full control over whether you invest in yourself in those skills. And once you learn how to communicate effectively, this is a lifelong skill that you can take with you anywhere and use in just about any job. So I really do encourage you to invest in yourself, to learn how to communicate effectively in your presentations, because it's a valuable skill for your career no matter where you are. So how do you learn these skills? Well, that's what I'm here for. That is what I do. And my signature course is called Blast Off to Stellar Slides. It's a lot of fun, and it's made for academics, researchers, scientists, evaluators, people on this non-academic path. It's basically for people who need to share data and who need to educate or inform adults. So there's a lot of resources out there for business. The 2 books that I mentioned in this video, that's what it's for. It's for business. It's for people who need to, report on quarterly profits and report to their CEO of a Fortune 500 company. So a lot does apply to, this sort of world of academia and evaluation and research, but a lot doesn't. So my course is unique because it's made for people who sometimes have other goals in mind. For example, you just need to teach people, you just have students, you're teaching a course. So, how do you use presentation design to do that effectively? So if you're interested in investing in yourself, well, then check out the links that I've posted below for, the next time I open enrollment and all kinds of details about Boss. And don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions. Speaking of Boss, if you're already a member, then you definitely want to check out the bonus video I made to go along with this YouTube video. I walk you through my animations and how I set everything up. You will definitely want to know my secrets for that. And you can get a taste of my training for free. I have a free course called Stellar Slides in 5, and the link to that is below. All right, thanks for watching this video. If you made it to the end, you are fabulous, and hopefully you have a new perspective on the importance of presentations. And if you liked it, give it a like, hit that subscribe button, and share it with others who might find this helpful. And that's it. I'm Dr. Echo Rivera, and thank you for helping me end death by PowerPoint. I'll see you next week. Bye.